Now, leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Kartikeya, has posed 5 questions for Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, and we are putting out those 5 questions on our television screens now. In his opinion, how would history judge his tenure as the Prime Minister of India? That's question number 1. Question number 2, Kartikeya, is does his tenure as Finance Minister give him greater satisfaction than his tenure as Prime Minister? Question number 2. Question number 3, since his government is perceived as extremely corrupt, where does he feel he went wrong in not asserting himself when the situation so demanded? Question number 4, where does he feel he went wrong in the management of the economy which led to the breakdown of the investment cycle? And question number 5, does he bear the guilt of institutional subversion of CBI, JPC, CVC, civil services during his tenure as the Prime Minister of India? Kartikeya, do we expect answers on these questions? Has Arun Jaitley set the tone for the press conference?
I would say these are the questions which people would have asked the Prime Minister. Yes, Mr. Jaitley has posed relevant questions. These are the questions even the journalists would have asked. But the issue is that the PM will have to answer these questions. Ultimately, if you don't rest your case, if you don't put your point of view across, if you don't argue as to what you felt went wrong and what you felt went right, I think the electorate is not going to be satisfied with your silence. They would like to know as to what our Prime Minister thinks. So this is an exercise he'll have to do. I feel that he should have done it more often, his interactions. But nonetheless,
yes,
this grand big exercise will finally take shape today.
Kartikeya Sharma, stay on with me. Let me also bring in headlines today's National Affairs Editor Javed Ansari, who joins me from the Newspit for more on this big story. Javed, this is a situation, the Prime Minister who almost never speaks. Just the 3rd time in 10 years, the Prime Minister will talk to journalists about his achievements, or as the opposition says, lack of achievements. What are the key takeaways that we can expect on the political front, on the economic front, on the foreign policy front? The Prime Minister is facing a major allegation of policy paralysis, Javed.
Yes, and it's too late in the day to kickstart anything. So therefore, I'd be very surprised if he makes grand or major announcements. He doesn't have too much time. He perhaps in 2.5 months' time, the code of conduct will come into play. We'll be in the election mode. So therefore, there's just 2.5 months left. We're talking of 15th of March in this case, Gaurav. So I don't expect too many grand announcements. What I do expect is that he will vehemently defend his track record. He will try and underline some of the achievements of his government. Try and also underscore the point that though he's been much maligned, his government has much to be proud about. Whether this is acceptable to the people of India, whether they find this palatable, we will know only in a couple of months from now. But I'd be very surprised if the Prime Minister starts making grand policy announcements. Of course, they could. There are huge political undertones to this. There is this question of Rahul Gandhi hanging, and people have been asking whether the Prime Minister will abdicate in favor of him. I'll be very surprised. With 2.5 months again to go, there's no point in the Prime Minister abdicating and somebody else taking his place.